Amen. We can pray. Our Father in heaven, our heart is brought low before you this morning. Though the world did not know you, but you have made us to know you. Though the world shouts, thinking they are talking to you, but they don't know that they are not talking to you. This is what you have made us to know. That we're not living by our prayers, not by our fasting. We have made to know that we are living because you want us to live. We are in your presence because you predestinate us to be in your presence. Father, let these revelations be always vivid in our hearts until we live here in the name of Jesus Christ. I pray for your mercy this morning, that it will please you, Lord, to bless us this morning. Please consider blessing us this morning in the name of Jesus Christ. We pray for opening of the eyes. We are so blind, we think we see, but we don't know we don't see. Open our eyes that we can see those things, so that we'll be able to be what you want us to be in the name of Jesus Christ. With what we come through to your presence, to your people this morning, maybe is that what you want to tell your people in the name of Jesus Christ? Sanctify us and purify us in Jesus' name. I remember our brothers and sisters online, those that are viewing us at present and those that will view us later. I pray that the mercy of God will apportion blessings unto you. May our paths be crossed with that great light to lead us into Christ's rest in the name of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ's name I pray. God. Praise the Lord. We thank God for this morning. May his name be blessed in the name of Jesus Christ. I'm not saying you should bring it. I'm saying you should acknowledge them after the service. So that commander be clear, you can understand. So I said you should. He was staying out. So I said you should enter, since it was not deliberate. May the Lord bless us in Jesus' name. We had ministers' meetings and we finished this morning. Please always remember to pray for us. Yes, I have left, but we are having our means. Baba Moses and Brother Eyitayo Fatimi, may God bless you in the name of Jesus Christ. Let's take our Bible. I will take parts, and our brother will come to take the other parts. Matthew chapter 16. I welcome everyone that are joining us this morning. The service leader will come and do the rest. God bless you all. Matthew chapter 16. From verse 11. Matthew 16 from verse 11. Baba, shake my Baba. Rufus. Baba Rufus. Shake my say Igbo. Okay. I don't know. Brother, you can stand. What are you? What about you can stand by? There's people there, Abby. Just choose the people near here so that people can be here in the background. Matthew chapter 16 from verse 11. And I'm reading from here. How is it that you ought to you concerning bread, that you should beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees? Then understood they how doctrine of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. Father, bless your word in Jesus' name. In Jesus Christ's name I prayed. It is no more a news for most of us that are Bible students about this passage of the Bible that I've read. We all knew that Jesus warned the disciples of the doctrines of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. And the new thing I want to tell you this morning is that we also should be aware of our own leaven. I should not rush. Sorry. It's not a new thing that of the doctrine of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. But the new gospel that I'm telling you this morning is for you to be aware of your own leaven. Your own doctrine. As every one of us are peculiar people, so also we have peculiar doctrine in us. Maybe we need to understand why Jesus Christ is warning his disciples. Why I was meditating, why should Jesus Christ warn us to be aware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees? And this was because we are a strange breed. We are a strange we are and you carry them to China. And while you are going out, while they are going out to mix with people, they are friends. And you call your children, beware of the food of Chinese. Because our food here is someone poison somewhere. and someone poison is our own food. We don't eat lizard here. We don't eat frog here. But they do up there. It could cause stomach ache. It could cause health issues. So that's why Jesus Christ is telling us that you are a strange breed in this world. So we should be mindful of what we eat and where we eat. Maybe I should give you some just to balance this understanding. Matthew chapter 13. You will see why Jesus is saying, you see that we are a strange breed. As a strange breed, we have our own language, peculiar language. Like every town or every community here has their own peculiar language. So it is you that are kinsmen that you can be communicating to one another that you understand. So our own language, somebody else may not understand it. So as a strange breed in this world, we have our own peculiar food, we have our own peculiar language, we have our own peculiar dress, we have our own peculiar nature. So we are just living here as a stranger and we are going back to where we came from. That's why Apostle Paul said you should not conform yourself to this world. So until you knew yourself, you won't know how to behave. So that's why when you see some brothers and sisters that provide the same thing with us, and you begin to see some hidden practices, we call it hidden practices. Any character that is not in the characters of the kingdom is an hidden character. So if there's anything that is coming from you that is different from our own local, it's either you are a stranger or you have been infected with strange characters. May the Lord help us in Jesus' name. Look, for you to know that we have our own peculiar language, and nobody, if you are not part of us, you can't understand our language. Look at our Lord Jesus Christ. That therefore speak I to them in parable. Létí wọn ló dòwe kì í ṣòwe létí tàwa. So and that's why two people can stand before the Lord Jesus Christ and he's talking to them in the language they understand, in the language they can hear, secular language. One will understand, one will not understand because of where you came from. There were so many people before that really get what he was saying. And it is those people that can understand what he was saying that is part of us. You may be my husband, you may not be. You may be my uncle, you may not be part of us. You may be my neighbor, you may not be part of us. The fact that you are attending this church may not can understand our language. And those people that can only limit themselves to our own food tastes. That are part of it. Is that because they sing no hearing, hear not. Verse 16. But blessed are your eyes, for ye see, and your ear, for ye hear. Brother and sister, somebody's food here is another man poison. Jesus Christ served this food of the word of God before the people. Some people take it, some people rejected it. May the Lord help us in Jesus' name. Strange breed here. Ọmọ àjèjì ni wá nílẹ̀ yìí. We are a strange breed here. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, the last verse. If you are in our family, if you are part of our tribe, àníran tó ń jọ ẹ́ lójú, or that you can't to be something. Look at verse 18. We is a compound norms. Our tribe, our kinsmen, bread and sin. All this not to serve our God, not even hunger, not even poverty, not even sickness, not even worldly failure. Because we are not of this world, so everything out of this world doesn't have any meaning to us. Whether they be or they did not be. Ọmọ àjèjì ni wá nílẹ̀ yìí, a ní ogún tiwa. Praise the Lord, brother. Another scripture. We have my once verse 9. But our brother is telling us, he's addressing peculiar people here. Lord, be ye understand that ye are a chosen generations. You are not the same thing with everybody in the world. Baba wa ko wa fun travel for vacation bi ni. We came here for vacation here. And we are going back. We left so many things behind there. We left our encounter. Praise the Lord. A royal priesthood. Nation. Oh, we are even a nation of our own. We were talking yesterday, we are saying in Italy, there is a nation in a nation. That is our symbolic, brothers and sisters. We are a nation in so many peculiarities. And that's why our God can die as most wretched people, but it was his glory. Jesus could be to touch but to go fun. I love this. A peculiar people. Okay. May God open us to see this diversion in the name of Jesus Christ. Therefore, you have your own Alashatiwa. In some part of Nigeria, if a man would dress, wear trousers and wear like this. In part of Nigeria, a man will use ramper. And they can take that ramper to anywhere in the world because that is their own culture. You don't be afraid of your culture. You don't be ashamed of your culture. In Ghana today, The proper dressing is for you to wear a short knicker and use big wrapper to wrap yourself. You don't be afraid or ashamed of your culture, because Ghanaians are peculiar people. You should show forth the praises of him. Your life, your conduct, everything you will do must reflect the word of our God Almighty. Everything should be according to the will of God, as is written in the word of God. Who has called you out of darkness? Praise the Lord, brethren. Do you know your good head can be a darkness? Your good head. For you to have a good head can be, if you want to go into good head, you are in darkness, because it's against your will. Your untimely death, for you to be praying to live long, when God said, ask you what determine you will die young, you are going to darkness. Is anybody understand me? In Christ Jesus, is for him to be stripped naked, Omaluabi, in the afternoon, in the daylight, and he was crucified. Tongue of flesh, of crown of tongues, arrow pierce. Every part, major part of his body were bleeding. That is the glory of God. Because it may not sound to you like that, because you may not be our people. If you are ashamed, if you are feeling ashamed, where God will take glory, you are not part of us. Beware of your own leaven. Praise the Lord, brethren. Jesus warned us, mind what you eat and where you eat. And that's why in Ondo we were made to understand it's part of our culture, and we have a peculiar culture, we have a peculiar language, we have a peculiar culture, and we have a peculiar nature. That's why if we eat poison, if we eat strange word, strange doctrine, our nature is very peculiar. Moment you are feeling that, I feel something wrong, we have a nature to put our hand on our throat like this, and we will vomit everything immediately. That's repentance. That we can repent immediately, and that's why we repent every day. Mind what you eat and where you eat it. Chapter 2, from verse 2. From verse. Is it verse 2 or verse 1? Canceros, brother. He was saying, in who the word of, is this First Timothy 17? Okay, 17. Apostle Paul was telling us that we should arm ourselves with godly knowledge. Anybody that will not be fitting of forethought will have knowledge. And let me tell you, brothers and sisters, by studying the Word of God. Because our nature is beyond reading Bible. There is a path. That is discernment, power of intuition. You know the people of the world. There was time my mother took me because he knew maybe what I would be tomorrow. My mother has feelings of what I will be today. And she was having fever of losing me early. And it took me to one man. He said, my mother said he should prepare a concoction for me so that when they poison me, when I lay my hand on that plate like this, I will see that there's person here. Ours is not like that. Ours is not like that. Because he has deposited kind of a power in us. And that is the power of discernment. If you like, call it that will shine from your heart. It will light on everything that you come across you. Your task is just so. In Romans chapter 2, the Bible said the Gentiles, they have no Bible they could read. But the Spirit of God in them, making them to behave and speak in accordance with the law of God. So without the Bible, you think you could hear his Bible, the leading light. So study to show yourself approved of God, verse 17, verse 16, verse 15. A workman that needed not to be ashamed, rightly divide the word of truth. Apostle Paul is not warning us, shun proven and fame babbling, for they will increase unto you ungodliness, and their words, false doctrine, is like a cancer. In Leje, it would destroy me. It's just like when you said, as a sheep, I should come and be swimming in dirtiness, in mud. And when let them in Balaramu, brothers and sisters. It is you that you can comfortable in denomination under these big mega ministers. It's not in my nature. We do not belong to the wild animals. And all of that. For us, it is not in our nature, it's cancerous. Said he is like a cannon the truth have held. I want to shina nepati otito. I thought you are interpreting. You have said it. So you may not even understand what I'm saying still. Look at verse 18. Anything that is away from the truth, no matter how little it is, if it is Trinity, is cancerous. If it is woman preacher, or then a woman put it in the pulpit, is cancerous. If it is causing your enemy and causing them and declare condemning fire, bringing fire. I'm just giving you a iceberg of it, or what do you call it? If it is like our brother in Netame that has said Jesus Christ is Father of himself, God Almighty, is cancerous.
It is better for one to pray for natural cancer than to have spiritual cancer. Spiritual cancer will kill the body and the soul. No matter how little it started. You know, cancer will not just do like this, not just like this. And that's why I always say that it doesn't take a big substance of poison to kill a man. Just little like this, put it in a food, that man will die. Just little. And when spiritual cancer has developed himself, you will be in spiritual mess. Hello, sir. One man on Syria, like natural cancer. May God never have you come across it in the name of Jesus Christ. If you see somebody that has natural cancer, you will be smelling for yourself, offensive odor, and you'll be smelling for all your relatives. That's why Apostle Paul said you'll be doing things that are not convenient. Àwọn àṣẹ Ọlọ́run wọ́n máa ṣe gbogbo ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ibi lẹ́ni wọ́n sì lórúkọ Olúwa làwọn ti ń ṣe. Òórùn kánsà ni jẹjẹrẹ ni. May the Lord help us in Jesus' name. God had his own doctrine. I want you to know. Know that one very well. And human beings have their own doctrine. And God's doctrine is our doctrine. Deuteronomy chapter 32. I just want to take you there. I have 1 hour here, so we'll continue next time. From verse 2. I want to read verse 2. In Deuteronomy chapter 32. My doctrine shall drop as a rain. You do know the implication of this. Any doctrine that man manufactures is not of God. Anything that is not from above. Any doctrine of the gospel of Christ that is not from above is cancerous. Anything that is not, God said, my doctrine shall. Jesus Christ brought doctrine of God. Verse 16 and 17. And Jesus answered and said, my doctrine is not mine. So anything that is not from the Lord Jesus Christ or from the Holy Spirit through the apostles is from man and is cancerous. I don't know why you are comfortable whining and dining with all this low. No, it's not. We can't even bear it. No, from this and we know that this man is thinking. No, I can't work with him. No, I can't stay under him. It's in our nature. Mímú táwọn èèyàn ló níkà. Àwọn èèyàn Louis. Sànpá wà ìsàrà Louis. And if any man will do his will, if you want to please God, he shall know of the doctrine. That's why one of the disciples said, not in the flesh. One better than the messenger. The message is greater than the messenger. It is the message that drives the messenger. If he himself derives from the message, Jesus may not be part of us. Yes, sir. I can say it. If he derives, he's not part of us. You are amazed? If Jesus today is not part of us, let him to come and rescue us. Praise the Lord, brethren. Do you know that even the receivers of the message is greater than the messenger? Àwọn tá a rán yàn sí, tá a rán yàn sí. Because the messenger will face hell if he did not deliver to the right person. Akọ̀jú náà tí ò bá lọ jíṣẹ́ fẹ́ ń taran fún tó bá yà kúrò lọ́nà bí taran fún. Let's tell ourselves gospel truth. Praise the Lord, brother. When I look at these children's faces, I know that they are coming to preach the real gospel. Praise the Lord, brother. All we are doing now is just to provide foundation for them. These children will come tomorrow and they will open this same scripture we are preaching today. Even if we are alive, we will bow like this and say, we never see it to this extent. Praise the Lord, brother. We have these enemies. Let's see 1 Peter chapter 5. Remember this topic, beware of your own leaven. If you don't destroy yourself, no false doctrine man can destroy you. If you do deception in him or her already. If you are deceived, there is deception in you. If there is no deception in you, there's no way you can be deceived. That's why I said, beware of your own leaven. I love to handle my things. That nobody can even go that area with you. That is your own leaven that will destroy you. Ìfẹ́ ara èèyàn máa ń pààyàn run ni. Ìfẹ́ ara èèyàn dàbí ọmọ tó lágídí ni tẹ́ ń gbàdúrà fún kó má kú. Ọmọ tó gọ̀. A man with self-will is like a child that doesn't have sense and you are praying you should not die. Ikú àgọ̀ náà ni ó kú. Look at it now. 1 Peter. What's his time now? Verse 8. Be sober. It's part of our nature to be sober. When you see somebody that always sober, if you see somebody who is in a strange land, and that person gets sense, you will be walking carefully. And you are walking dab. There was this Yoruba adage. It is only the stranger that doesn't get, that are not wise. Wọ́n ní àjèjì ní tẹ̀lé bàṣubàṣu ọmọ onílù àtẹ̀ jẹ́jẹ́. Ẹ̀yin àjèjì lẹ́lẹ̀ wọ bí tẹ́ mọ̀ wà ní àwọ̀ ọmọ onílù àtẹ̀ jẹ́jẹ́. It is you, stranger, that can be in the true gospel and you begin to behave anyhow. If you are a citizen, you'll be sober always. And if as a stranger, as a citizen, if we travel to another country that we are not familiar with, that person will be asking so many questions. Please, I'm going to number 8. Where is it? They go like this. If you walk a bit, it will see us. So that he didn't want to waste his time, didn't miss his way. You not say, I know the place. Okay, I can see A here. I'll see. By the time you know it, D can be here and C can be in Namayo. Sober. You can click the dictionary meaning of sober. You see what it is. Be vigilant. What man in Shora? It's not somebody that says, I don't care whatever anybody is saying. If it's only this small child you met on the road, you ask questions from that child. That's why Jesus Christ said, he that can receive little child in my name shall receive me. A man that is a stranger in a strange land will not be wise in his own concept. Because you don't know the evil zone. Because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion walking about, seeking whom he might devour. And we have devils in three ways. We have devil in three ways. Devil is working in three ways. Devil in you. Devil in somebody that close to you. Devil in your word. Devil in you first. Devil in your word. The day I know that there is devil in me, that is the day God really helped me to. I'm an overcomer in that day. Even till now, devil do come into me. Today, our hearts doesn't have door. Anybody can enter and go out anytime. Your sanctification is for you to be vigilant. It's for you to realize the unwanted visitor. Àlejò tó fẹ́, and you shake them out. Devil in your closest. Where we have read, Jesus was just emphasizing the devil in your word. Be careful of the devil in your word. In your environments. The devil in your country. That does not mean that there is no devil in you, there is no devil around you. Devil in Jesus. Devil. What says my time? 1 minute, Abi. Let us see devil in him. Next time we'll come again. I can't believe that Jesus Christ in John chapter 12 said, Lord, Father, let this cup pass over me. That was devil in Jesus. Is a leaven, his own leaven. If he has not recognized it, and then he accepted it, that is the end of his purpose. And God will have abandoned him. But if you look at the next phrase, he said, he rebuked himself, but not me, but let your will be done. He even said that, was it not because of the purpose I was born? Let's bow our head. Matthew chapter 4. All those conversations of the devil. Bow down for me. Turn stone to bread. Jump from the temple. It was the word that came out from his heart. It was his own thoughts. That was the devil in the Lord Jesus Christ. If you are careful of the doctrine of the Pharisee, and you are not careful about the doctrine that Father, bless your people. May this word do us good in Jesus' name. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Clapping over onto the while coming.
And give us the understanding of what we have heard. One thing I know, that God is a witness, that it will require that you will live by what you have heard. The word of God is sent to justify us, not to condemn us. And I want you to understand certain statements. Praise the Lord. Understand certain statements so that it won't give you problem. Who told Jesus that he will not die? He will not go to the cross. They will not allow him. The Bible said he took him and began to rebuke him. It was Peter. What was it that Jesus cast out? He said, "Get thee behind me." Peter knew in our hearts, God have access to it. The devil has access to it. And the Bible said the greatest battle ever, the sound of God said the greatest battle ever fought is in the heart of. As you are seated there could be the voice of the devil in you, telling you certain things, trying to take advantage of the fall, trying to take advantage of your flesh. Praise the Lord. So when Jesus said, "Not my will," he was rebuking certain things that he knew this is not from God. This is the devil. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Follow me. The Bible said, and the devil took Jesus. Shebo's the son here. Eh? Okay. Matthew chapter 4. Hallelujah. I hope some of us have woken up. Amen. The temptation of Jesus. Now, let's read from verse 5. And I don't want to read it from here, so that it won't be that I have tampered with my Bible. So read it from your own Bible. Who can read it from his Bible? What did you see there? We can chorus it. Verse 5. Let's chorus it. Then, the what? Did what? Taketh him up into where? Into the holy city. And what? And seated him on a pinnacle of what? Do you think there was physical devil there? No. There was no physical devil there. It was thought. Hallelujah. In our thought most time, mo fẹ́ di báyìí, mo fẹ́ di báyìí, mo fẹ́ lọ báyìí. Èṣù nú ẹ̀ nìyẹn. And if you don't identify it and fight it and rebuke it like Jesus did, you will meet failure. Praise the Lord. Are we together? May the Lord help us. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ. May the Spirit of the Lord break the word of God in your heart. Do you know that some people can cut off when they hear a devil in Jesus? This man is not saying, no. And you will not hear anything again. May the Spirit break the word in your heart. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. And then the Holy Spirit have expressions. The Holy Spirit has expressions. And at times, it is because the word of God is not for everybody to understand. Or you think I'm saying nonsense again? The Bible said he spoke to them in parable, so that they will not understand. Praise the Lord. I want to speak from Romans chapter 8. And don't get caught off if you discover I'm saying the same thing. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. Romans chapter 8 verse 28. And what? What did you see there? And what? You didn't open it. Peace, yeah? You don't have Bible. You didn't open it. Eh? And what do we see there? And we, Abi? We have just heard about we, Abi? And we. This group of people that are peculiar, they also have peculiar knowledge. Hallelujah. And we, when there is we, there is they. Hallelujah. The Bible says, and they went out of us and speak boldly, that anyone that goes out of us is not part of us. Now, I want you to know there is something different about the we are talking about. And one of it is this thing that we know. He said, and we know. We know. There is a knowledge in us. There is understanding why we don't struggle with issues in our life. There's a reason that when there is a problem, we don't quickly pray, Oluwa yomi do esai, Oluwa yomi no walai. Because we know. Hallelujah. Let me tell you that knowledge itself, praise the Lord, is the first thing that will bring you into what God wants you to become. At the VG, we were made to know you cannot act better than your understanding. Gbogbo nǹkan lógún ìdílé. Gbogbo nǹkan lógún oṣó. They know better than that. And we know that how many things are for good to them. Abi? Who are the called to his purpose. Amen. When you say all things, you say, let all of us go out. What is outside all? There is nothing outside all. The earlier you have this understanding, the earlier, the better your peace. Hallelujah. The earlier you have this knowledge, praise the Lord. It is not some things. It is not all good things. Praise the Lord. It is all things. And this knowledge is in the we. This knowledge is not out there. The knowledge is in the we. That all things works together for good. Because they are to those, not to everybody. Not to all people. Not to the whole world. But unto them that are the called. According to his purpose. Afarawelewu. We are not the same with those that are not the call. Everything happening to the call is for good. There's no bad day. There's no God. It is always a good day. Abraham was talking the other time. Praise the Lord. That we are a city. We are a nation. A heart inside this heart. And I remember Israel in Egypt. They are a nation. In a nation. Jacob said that, tell Pharaoh that this is where we want to stay. Because what you are using to praise God, those things you are using to sacrifice and worship God, is an abomination to the Egyptians. Right. But this nation of Israel is inside this nation of Egypt. But there shall be exodus. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. May the Lord help us in Jesus' name. Let me tell you, there is difference between hearing and knowing. Hallelujah. He said, we know. It's not only that we have had it, but we will know. Praise the Lord. What you know affects you. It will affect everything about you. It will determine the step that you know, that you take. It is an evidence that you already know. You don't know until in class, when you are teaching the student, one of the things teachers will ask the student, yes. You now say, okay, I want to know whether you understand. You ask questions. What is this? That is when you will know. That when they said they understand, they only want you to get out of the class. It's not that they understand. Hearing does not mean you know. Until what you know becomes the life you live, it's affecting your action, you don't truly know. Most of the time, you find that Paul used to ask this question. Paul used to ask people questions. Know ye not? Because their action. Jesus looked at his disciples. Jesus looked at his disciples. He said, are you yet without understanding? Maybe you were there when I turned, multiply bread. Don't you yet understand? There is something that we know. I wrote it there. I said, there is freedom in knowing what is true. There is freedom in knowing what is true. And one of the things you need to know, or one of the things that we know, is that all things that you are here today, that Brotuji came here today, all things work together for good. God does not just allow anything in our life. Whatever your sickness, there was something that was said. Do you know that the good health you are praying for, God might not allow it. Praise the Lord. Not all of us will be rich. Because wealth will not work for good in the life of some people. All things, your poverty, your riches, praise the Lord, they work together. God have a way. The brother was told at a time that he should not go to school. And then, in this present world now, imagine telling somebody he shouldn't go to school. And what is he going to do now? He's going to go and learn tailoring. It is now you call it fashion design. It was tailoring. Hallelujah. And this is a brilliant person. Very brilliant. There is difference between you are in school and you are scoring 0 and they say, okay, go and learn something. Praise the Lord. He's a very brilliant person. And God said, you will not go to school. All things. All things. There are some of our children we are speaking to. You have to know that there's a peculiar plan of God for these peculiar people. He said, I know my thoughts towards you. It's the thought of good and not of evil. There are things in the heart of God concerning God's own children. And that is why it determines the path that they must go. And if you will not go this way, he has a way of making your way to be very rough. Praise the Lord. I said, this knowledge will bring us peace. It will bring us joy. And it will help us to cooperate with the process God is taking us through. God is taking you through a process. The understanding that all things work for your good will help you to cooperate with God. Amen. Praise the Lord. May the Lord help us. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ. That are happening in our life. They look as if they are bad. How can God take the Israelites? How can you say, I love you? I have chosen you just because I love you. I like you so much. Praise the Lord. And a journey of 2 days, it was taking them 40 years. Praise the Lord. There's a place they can follow. Very short. But God said, I won't take you to the short place. And God now said that is very rich, that has power. He now said, I have suffered you. I have made you hungry. I have made you go thirsty. I have taken you through some wahalas, so that you might know that man shall not live by bread alone. Praise the Lord. So all that God was doing for Israel was for their good. But there's no way they could have known it. Praise the Lord. Now let's go a little, because of my time. May the Lord help us. May the Lord help us. Apostle Paul did not say, we think, amplified fashion. He used the word assured. Hello. Now, in my understanding, let me use myself. And don't be afraid. If as I am preaching now, I fall down here and I die, it is for my good. No, we are sure. All things, not some things. Not few things, not good things. All things. Even the one you think is not good. No, there's a way you look at it. This one I said now. That's why I use myself as an example. Hallelujah. I've been looking at this for a long time. Of a statement Bro Paul made. Somebody received a call that somebody died. Is the only child of the mother. And the servant of God said, Onto si dalo jolon niyan. Báwo ló ṣe rí lára tiwa? Nǹkan ò sì kí ń ṣẹlẹ̀ lẹ́yìn Ọlọ́run. Take away fear. If you are among these we, all things in our life. Hallelujah. I don't know. Maybe there's something wrong with me. But we were somewhere. We went to bury somebody. They said it's 58 years. And somebody didn't believe in a poor door. Hello? How old was Jesus when he died? 33. Praise the Lord. I used to make this comparison. If you are here because you don't want to die, you might begin to have a rethink. Because I cannot assure you that you will not die. I can only assure you that whatever happens in your life, if you have come into Christ, anything that happens to you is for your good. Amen. Methuselah was how old when he died? 969, Abi. He was the oldest man. Was there any story that he pleased God? Was there any story that he did something that God likes? Enoch spent 365. Almost just 1/3 of what Methuselah spent. But it was Enoch that walked with God. And the Bible didn't say that I someone say Owaku. God didn't even wait for that. The Bible says, and God took him. Àwọn ẹni tí ayé ò yẹ. They are the we that we are talking about. There's a level you get to. If you are among the we that we are talking about, you will be able to talk like Paul. For me to die is gain. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. May the Lord help us. May the Lord help us. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Now, let me take you back a little. Why was Paul talking the way he was talking? Because I would love us to read some things. One of the things salvation must bring into your life is this knowledge. This knowledge must be there. Hallelujah. And let me ask you, know us as heir of salvation. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. So plus from the time you were born, the place where they born you, praise the Lord, the parents that gave birth to you, the treatment you had received that time, including what is happening to you now, and all that will happen to you, they are working for good. Praise the Lord. They are working for your good. Romans chapter 8. I won't go back too much. I just want you to see what Paul was saying before he got to this place. Praise the Lord. Now, verse 18 of that Romans chapter 8. Let me take it from 17. And if children, then what? Heirs. Heirs of who? Of God. And joint heirs with who? With Christ. If so be and a good thing. If we do what? Suffer with him. Suffer and a good thing. So Apostle Paul knew there is a suffering that every heir will pass through. I said, if we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together with him. Suffering is a step to glory. God looked at the Israelites. He said, I have brought you out of the furnace of fire. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. So he was talking about suffering before he now reminded them, we know that all things work together for good. Praise the Lord. Now verse 18. For I reckon that the suffering of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. Praise the Lord. And then he begins to talk about so many things. Before he now come and say all things work together for good. People talk about faith. And I say most times what they say about faith is not true about faith. Hebrews chapter 11. Let's look at this place together for some time. Hallelujah. There are good things. We were singing the other time, Abraham's blessings are mine, Abby. That Abraham that you said his blessings are yours. Look at what he did by faith. Hallelujah. From verse 8. What is faith? Faith is not stubbornness. Faith is not just that you are wishing yourself fine things. Faith is submission to God. Either you understand or you don't understand. Because you already know that whatever happens to you, God allowed it. Whatever He allowed, we work together for your good. Praise the Lord. Verse 8. By faith, Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, which he should after received, obeyed, and he went out, not knowing whether he went. At times when we tell you, leave this one, you say, unto what? Hallelujah. I tell you now, maybe for example, somebody is selling alcohol. He's selling alcohol. And you have come into Christ. And we say, leave it. He said, what will I now be doing? Abraham did not wait to know what he will be doing. He didn't wait to know, sir. You say I should live here. Where do you want me to go? Obedience was the major thing for Abraham. Igboro. Abraham's blessings are mine. What of Abraham's suffering? What of Abraham's submission? Do you have Abraham's obedience? Faith is not what people call faith. Because when we begin to talk about suffering, there are people that believe by faith. It takes your faith. It is what you believe that will happen to you. Just believe. It will happen. We know that it's not like that. Our Father determined the path. We are not the one that determined it. Oh Lord God, our call Lord God. Praise the Lord. He didn't know where he went. He didn't know where he will go. But he left. Look at verse 9. The same land that he promised him. Abraham was living there as a stranger. The same land God said is your own. Almost everything that Abraham has there, he bought it. Hallelujah. All things work together for our good. Praise the Lord. It is not your plan, the plan of God. Praise the Lord. Dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. Why was Abraham living there like that and he didn't bother? There was something else that God was showing him. Verse 10. For he looked for a city which had foundations, whose builder and maker is what? Is God. There's a statement the servant of God made. He said, we left wealth where we were coming from. We left wealth where we are coming from. So the wealth of this world, is nothing to us. Because we know we have real wealth at home. And we have come here to be tested. And if we pass, we will go back to our wealth. He's looking for a city. So the earthly city was nothing to him. Hallelujah. This particular one was nothing. Because there was one which is not temporary. We read it. It's a permanent blessings of God. That was what he was after. And that was why, even when they offer him the things of this earth freely, any place you like, he knew God have not handed over yet. I have to buy it from these people. Hallelujah. Kí ló ń pè ní ìgbàgbọ́? And it's just agídí ọkàn. It's just disobedience to God. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Because he was looking for another city. There was something that was his focus. There was something that was his focus. Praise the Lord. Do you have the same focus that Abraham had? A city that God is the builder. The new Jerusalem that will come from heaven. A city that has foundation. Praise the Lord. May the Lord help us. Not the popularity of this world. Not the enjoyment of this world. A servant of God looked at himself. He said, he told himself, this my body. Suffering is good for it. Hallelujah. He looked at it, he said, suffering is good for this my body. Praise the Lord. Let's go on. I want you to jump, Sarah. Jump to verse 13. I want to. They look like good sermon. I was preaching at the time and I titled it Death in the Pot. Májèlé nínú oúnjẹ nínú kòkó oúnjẹ. Praise the Lord. I said, now, the children of God, they have a level of discernment to know that there's death in this pot. Oúnjẹ rùn dáadáa o. Oúnjẹ ìjọjú lójú o. Ṣùgbọ́n májèlé ń bẹ́ẹ̀. Imagine nobody knew that. They will all hit it and die. And spiritual death is not like the physical death. There are dead people that are still praising God. They are still dancing. They are still preaching from the pulpit. He knew there is death in the pot. And that was why the Son of God was telling us that the mother did not know that there is something God will later give that will make him to discern the real death that can ruin man. When we say some things, they look heavy. That it is better to have the physical cancer than the spiritual one. Maybe the physical one will kill this. The Bible said, don't be afraid of what can kill what? The flesh. But be afraid of the one that can kill both your flesh and your soul. Like some great men of God, I have told myself, the real me is not this flesh. The real me is inside. This is just a dwelling place. I will not seek the pleasure of this one at the detriment of the pleasure of the one that is inside. Hallelujah. May the Lord help us. Verse 13. These all died in faith, not having received the promise. I have said it before. It is better to die with faith than for you out of unbelief enjoying some things on this earth. They died in faith, Abi. Not having received the promise, but having seen them afar and were persuaded of them and embraced them and confessed that they were what? Strangers. Kí ni wọ́n pè wá ńgbà tán wá sílẹ̀ kan? Àjèjì ni wá níbí. We are strangers here. Praise the Lord. You want to dress like them. You want to eat like them. In fact, they are the one you are competing with. Your prayer is to be like them. Before I bought the mountain behind my house, there was a small rocky something behind my house. You know, I had to buy it. It was the wisdom of God that led us to buy it. There's a prophet that used to come there. And the people there, they are hearing the prayer. How many of you sing that song? Emini ma koko Jerry Sagbara Olúwa Ikanyo. The Bible says prefer one thing. Making rich, praying to be the richest anywhere. I am praying to be the most godly person. If remove the most, I am praying to be like Christ. Among God men, that's my prayer. If being like Christ require that it makes me rich, that is in the mind of God. Against it, they came to thank me. The neighbors came to thank me. Now we will have rest. Can you imagine? There's no type of ritual he's not doing there. He wants to be the richest. That's not our focus. Ẹnu tí mo fẹ́ ní nínú ẹbí. Nínú ẹbí, ẹnu tí mo fẹ́ ní nínú ẹbí. Hallelujah. In the family is that I know Christ. That I want to tell them, live the life that I live. You will end up with him. Not that I want to tell people, talaka ò ní idea torí kò sówó tí ó fi exhibit. Are you here with me, brethren? Praise the Lord. Verse 14. For they that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country. And truly, if they had been mindful of that country from whence they came out, they might have opportunity to have returned. But now they desired a better city. Ìlú tó dára. That is an heavenly. If you are truly born again, you should be seeking the things above. What people call faith is not faith. They are just troubling heaven. Hallelujah. May the Lord help us. Brethren, I mean all things means all things. Hallelujah. I want to get to somewhere. And then I close. But I'm trying to let you know knowledge in them. Things don't just happen to us. Everything is working for what? He said they understand that it didn't say all things will be good in our sight. Some of ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn nǹkan tí ó já sí rere yìí á fẹ́ kó mú ìrora kọ̀ọ̀kan jáde nù wa náà. Ṣùgbọ́n òpin ẹ̀ lọ́lọ́run wò. Mi ò lè ráyè púpọ̀ láti sọ̀rọ̀ nípa òpin ẹ̀. But my interest is to show you that most of the things coming from this pulpit of these denominations, they are contrary to what faith is. Faith is spoken so much in this Hebrews 11. By faith, Moses looked at it. This is the throne of Pharaoh. And these are a group of people that are suffering. The Bible said he left the throne of Abraham, of Pharaoh, and he went with people that are suffering. Because there was something he was mindful of. The heavenly. I don't look at the house somebody built and say, Lord, please, let me also build this type of house. I don't do that. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Number one, I don't know whether he has house for me or not. That's number. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So I said, God, let your will be done. What ti rẹ́ lómi ò ti fẹ́ parẹ́. Ó ti fẹ́ ṣe kọjá ohun t'Ọlọ́run fún lórí ọ̀fẹ́ àti ṣe. Nítorí pé ó fẹ́ ṣe ohun téèyàn kan ṣe. Ó kàn ń kọrin irọ́ ni, ayé lọ́jà, ọ̀run nílé. Ẹ̀gbọ́n mélòó lèèyàn máa ń dábírà lọ́jà? Tó bá jọ́jà ni ní tòótọ́. Ibo ló ní kẹ́ ẹ tò ìṣúra yín sí? Àwọn pẹpẹ ń fi ayé hàn yín. Wọ́n dẹ̀ rò pé àwọn yẹn ló gbàgbọ́. Act by faith. They say, pull it by faith. What are you pulling? Amen. Let me jump. Because I want to round up. Amen. I will jump the case of Moses. I will jump it. Let me jump to verse 28. Through faith, by faith, they passed through the Red Sea as a dry land. Everybody will like that. They passed through the Red Sea by faith, which the Egyptians are saying to do were drawn. Àwọn ará Egypt náà fẹ́ ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀. Ṣùgbọ́n omi yẹn gbé wọn mì. You say, by faith, their enemies were drawn. That was what God wanted to do that time. Oh, tẹ̀lé mi lọ. Hallelujah. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell down. The walls of Jericho fell down flat. Oh yeah, gbogbo Jericho ayé mi ní sùúrù. Hallelujah. He did it at that time. Verse 31. By faith, the harlot Rahab perished not with them that believe not. When she had received the spies with peace. To fail me to tell of Gideon and of Barak and of Samson and of Jephthah, of David also and Samuel and of the prophets, who through faith subdue kingdoms, wrought righteousness. Praise the Lord. Verse 33. Who through faith subdue kingdoms, who wrought righteousness, obtained promises, stop the mouth of lions. 34. Quench the violence of fire, escape the edge of the sword, out of weakness were made strong, wax valiant in fight, turn to flight the armies of the aliens. Wonderful things. by faith. But let's continue. Women receive their dead raised to life again. And others, now watch it from here. This is where I want to point the attention to. But watch this other one. Hallelujah. Verse 35. And others were tortured. Not accepting deliverance, that they might obtain a better resurrection. It is still by faith that they look at it. This is so. We don't want anything that God does not want for us. I don't want a solution that is not godly. You were told in the first sermon that there are certain things you can bear. We cannot bear it. Because I am a jasi now. Komu mi sato to woli kakiri. Ewo mo sawa ko woli kirisi. Nígbà tí mo mọ̀. It is you that can bear it. That any prophet will just lay hand on you. We cannot bear it. It is not in the nature of we to run to any prophet for deliverance. Somebody was just watching TV, and he saw, a minister there killing people. And he came to me. He said, bro, I just want to inform you that I want to take my cousin to that place in Lagos. It was as if somebody used sword to pierce my spirit. You want to go there? Are you a solution seeker or heaven seeker? I said, whatever God cannot do among the bride of Christ, let us die with it. Hallelujah. I said, the edification of the body is by the body. You don't look for solution anywhere. Some of you are here. The major reason behind your delay is that ẹsẹ̀ yín ò dúró níbì kan, ẹ̀sìn wọlé kiri, ẹ̀sìn wá òlé kiri, ẹ̀sìn sáré lọ gbàdúrà láwọn ibì kan pẹ̀lú gbogbo tọ́ ìtẹ̀ ń gbọ́ àti ìṣe ojú yín pé ibì kan wà tí gbogbo wa ń lé. They reject what? Deliverance. If it is not deliverance, the Bible will not call it deliverance. Not everything you call answer prayer that heaven is happy about. My time has gone. The Israelites cried for meat, Abi. The Israelites cried for meat. And God gave them. But when God gave them meat, it was a judgment. Be careful. God gave them meat and said, you will eat this meat and it will come out of your nose. Hallelujah. A servant of God said something. He said the testimony some people came to give is their undoing. As in, God, it is something that is killing them. They don't know. I want to thank the Lord. I have built a house. You will eat and it will come out of your nose. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. Not accepting deliverance, that they might obtain a better resurrection. Yea, moreover, of bonds and imprisonment. How can you say by faith? By faith they went to trials. By faith they were imprisoned. Hallelujah. They were stoned. They were sawn asunder. Were tempted. Were slain with sword. They wander about in sheepskins. One was also fine. Hallelujah. Being destitute. Do you know what it means to be destitute? Hallelujah. Hallelujah. And it's you don't look like somebody that want to marry a graduate. You know why she said that? She had presented herself. And I have pretended that I did not see her. I say I don't have, what do you know? I don't have spec. Say spec, I don't have spec. If it is Fulani, that's what I told him. I told her. I said, if it's a Fulani girl, I will get used to the odor of Malu. I will get used to it. We will enjoy ourselves. Praise the Lord. Destitute people. But their focus is heaven. Afflicted and tormented, of whom the world was not worthy. They wandered in deserts and in mountains, all having obtained good report. Through what? Through faith. Praise the Lord. Why are you here? I think that was the first sermon in Ondo. Second. First. What do you want? What brought you here? What do you think we are pursuing? What do you think we are running after? Our own will? God forbid. You think our faith is based on our pursuit? And whatever happens around us, we have the understanding. We are sure it is working together for our good. What is that good, brethren? That we might. Let's go to 8:20. That Romans chapter 8. Let's read the next two verses. As I drop the mic. For whom he had foreknown, he also did predestinate to conform to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. Moreover, whom he did predestinate, them he also do what? Call. Them that are called. They are the called. Hallelujah. And whom he called, them he also justify. And whom he justify, them he also do what? He also glorify. What is that good? Our glorification. Whatever he allows around you, it is to bring you to that glory that he has ordained for you. The glory for which he has called you. That you might obtain that glory. He allows so many things in your life. I will have given examples. But I love to stay with time. Praise the Lord. Read about Joseph. Read about Joseph. Read about Paul. There was a thorn in his flesh. And God told him, I will not take it away. I will leave it like that. Because I'm using it for something good. And what is the good thing he's using it for? To humble Apostle Paul. So that he will not miss that glory. There is something ahead of us. The glory of the Lord. Shall we bow our head? The person that will take over will be coming. Whatever you had in the morning, whatever you have had again now, use it to pray. What do you like to tell God? from all that you have had. Talk to the Lord. All things. All things. The leaven that is in you. What will you want to tell God from all that you have had?
Let's talk to God. Turn off the way we think about faith. For us to embrace God, not because of the good things He has done, but in everything that He has used for us, that all their efforts in building the body of Christ will not be in vain. I believe we are talking to God. Thank you, Jesus, for your answers prayer. In Jesus' most precious name we have prayed. In Jesus' mighty name we have prayed. Father, we thank you for all that you have taught us today. We pray and we are depending on you that you will give us life and make us to manifest that life of Christ to the world in the mighty name of Jesus. We pray for your servants that you will strengthen them the more, anoint them the more, increase them in the knowledge of your word in the mighty name of Jesus. The audience, oh Lord, both those that are here and those that are online, Lord, we pray in faith in the mighty name of Jesus. Thank you, precious Heavenly Father. In Jesus' most precious name we have prayed. Amen. Amen. Praise the Lord. May we remain blessed in the mighty name of Jesus. As we be singing this song, we'll take our offering before we welcome our visitors. Come and see that the Lord is good. Come and see that the Lord is good. There is nothing He cannot do. Come and see the... You don't know the song? Oh, there is nothing He can... Come and see the Lord is good. Come and see the Lord is good. There is nothing He cannot do. Come and see the Lord is good. Come and see the Lord. I can't hear you. Oh, come and see the Lord is good. Come and see the Lord is good. In my life, come and see the Lord is good. There is nothing He cannot do. Come and see my God is good. Come and see the Lord. In my life, come and see the Lord. Galere na chukudima, galere na chukudima. Odi ye apuni, galere na chukudima, galere na chukudima, galere na chukudima. You are the mighty God, the great I am. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. You are the mighty God, the great I am. Hallelujah, hallelujah. You are the whole world. You get the whole world. You get the whole world. You get the whole You are the mighty God. I pray, hallelujah. Hallelujah. You are the hallelujah. 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 Everybody praise the Lord now. The blessings of the Lord now. We praise Him every Hallelujah. 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 I will shout hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. I will shout hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Take me back to the Father. Hallelujah, and we shout hallelujah, 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 the son of a victory, hallelujah, hallelujah. Let us hallelujah. He's the son of victory. Let us Let's give it another outfit. We are Praise the Lord. Let's bow our heads as we pray. Father in heaven, we thank you, Father, for how far you've been with us from the beginning of the fellowship to this hour. We give you all the glory, receive honor in the mighty name of Jesus. We present the offering before you that you bless and sanctify it, and may it be used for the furtherance of the know-how. May they all be blessed in the mighty name of Jesus. Thank you, precious Heavenly Father. In Jesus' most precious name, we pray. Our viewers online, I pray that the Lord will continue to touch your hearts for how you have been patient with us, spending your time to follow us. I will not just be following or just hearing that God will use this word that you are hearing to do something new in your life. May you remain blessed wherever you are watching from in the mighty name of Jesus. Shalom. God bless you.